Hello and welcome to Weekend Sauce episode 9. I'm Dom.
And I'm Corey.
And today we're going to be talking about Risk of Rain 2. We're also going to be talking about MK11, some news that came about that. Dragon Age 4, how, we talked about it last week a little bit, but it's gone now.
It's gone. It's done. Yep.
And we're going to be talking, possibly if we have time, about the Total War DLC.
Yeah, Total War Warhammer 2 is a new Lord pack that they just kind of announced there.
Risk of Rain.
Yeah, Risk of Rain 2. Still early access, right? So it's really interesting because, the first game, which I have not played, I don't think, have you?
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, same boat, yeah.
Did not play.
So Risk of Rain 2 was pretty well received. Commercially, culturally, as far as I know, it was a pretty solid game. And now we have Risk of Rain 2 coming out in full brand spanking new 3D, which is pretty cool, on early access, of course. So
on early access, but to be, kind of just a little bit funny. It's more complete than most games now.
Yeah, no, it's
to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's very well. There's a lot of content in it. Which does kind of come at the nature of how it plays, right? So let's assuming you don't know, it's kind of like the roguelike type thing where you end up spawned on a world, on a planet, whatever you want to call it, a level, and you just run around killing things to get money, spend your money on chests and other things to get items and doodads that help you kill things more to get more money it's a big loop, right?
Right, and you're always trying to balance between, should I stay on a level long so I could get everything on the level, or should I just leave early because the difficulty is increasing and you don't want to stay too long?
Yeah, difficulty slowly increases as time goes on. So it's a really solid kind of loop where especially when you're playing with friends, it's you're frenzying around the map trying to find the best items, trying to kill stuff as quickly as possible, just so that you're prepared to fight the boss, which, especially as you get higher and higher in the levels and difficulty, the bosses and fights are just totally insane. And, especially if you have the proper items, just the stuff you can do is insane. So it ends up being a really, really kind of enjoyable experience. Still a bit of polish, I think, that they need to.
Oh, there's definitely some bugs that you can clean up, right? Like on the mercenary, there's one specific enemy type, I can't remember. It kind of throws giant metal spike balls at you when it dies. And basically, if that corpse is left alone, what ends up happening is whenever you swipe your sword on it, it just kind of clips to it, and your character just kind of stays there, and it's making this huge noise, and it's just kind of annoying. Small things like that, but it's not like there's a whole bunch of bugs that really affect me. I remember there was one time where I spawned in, right, and I could not move anywhere. I honestly couldn't go anywhere. I honestly could not move, and I was so cheesed. But this happened to me once out of how many runs after loading onto a level. It's not really a big deal, right?
Yeah. So the bugs they'll address kind of as they appear. I think in terms of balancing and tweaking characters and enemies and stuff, be remiss not to mention the Artificer, who's I believe is a new character in Risk of Rain 2. So she's the most kind of difficult to unlock, if you will. The other ones, it's just achievements and stuff, but for her you have to get kind of 10 lunar coins, then hope for a portal to appear, and then buy her at the bazaar that ends up appearing. And then you have the Artificer, and she is very different to play because I think you've put it pretty well in the past, where she doesn't play Risk of Rain very well.
Yeah.
She's very weird to play as compared to everybody else, because up until that point, I had been playing, at least in my own example, I had only been playing Commando, who's very simple, he's the guy you start with, right? It's just all your abilities are very simple. Just left click is just, 2 shots from your guns. A right click is a kind of a long range shot that goes through enemies. Pierces. The R is a barrage of shots that has a chance to stun, and then your control is a barrel roll, just a roll on the ground. That's it, right? So super simple, and not a whole lot to worry about. It's just you shoot, you dodge out of the way when you can, and that's about it. Once you get a lot of on-hit items, you're proccing really well, especially if you have a lot of soldier syringes and your attack speed is up, so you're just proccing, and really simple. Not a whole lot to consider when you're playing the Commando. For Artificer, she has no mobility or extreme defensive abilities. The closest she has is that ice wall, which isn't really a wall.
Yeah,
Right?
so like I feel, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? I'm not a Risk of Rain pro, you know.
Yeah.
I don't do this, but I feel like if you want to play Risk of Rain well, like if you want to look at it analytically, you want at least a utility spell that like allows you to move. If you don't have that, you want something that takes away damage or mitigates damage, right? If you don't have either of those two things where you can move or you can mitigate damage, well, you're thinking, wow, this character must do like a whole bunch of damage. They must be like insane, right? Or I don't know, in some other capacity. And that's what the dream would be for Artificer, right? But it kind of is like that, but it's not. And the reason why is because attack speed doesn't exactly scale well with you because of
No, not at all.
she's a very cooldown and ability based because she's supposed to be a mage, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you're always just kind of waiting for your left clicks to come back on charge right after you use your whole kit. While it is nice that it executes after like 25%, right? If they're below 25%,
Yeah.
like that's
It's just an insta kill, yeah.
it's kind of nice, right? But
Mhm.
it doesn't work on bosses. It doesn't work on some any boss that spawn actually. It does
Yeah.
work on elites though.
Yeah, I mean she's again, it's like you said, like you'd hope that she does like really big damage and like she's kind of just nukes people, but that's not really the case. Like, especially when it comes to items, because again, like playing commando, like pretty much every item is at least somewhat beneficial to you in some way. I mentioned soldier syringes, which makes your attack speed higher. That really is of no benefit to artificer, at least not in the same way,
No, it
right?
ups like her cast speed, right? Which I guess you could say, well, but Dom, it ups her cast speed. That equals higher DPS. Not really, because you
Not
still
really,
have
no.
cooldowns.
Yeah, you still have to wait on
so-
your cooldowns, which is a big thing. And I do think they'll probably take a look at trying to make her a bit more viable, whether that's kind of changing certain defensive aspects of her or, again, like you said, like adjusting her cooldowns and casting speeds and stuff.
Yeah,
She's probably the one I think that needs the most work right now, at least.
she definitely needs a little help. Like I know there's one legendary that like decreases the cooldown on your utility shift, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like. There's also another legendary that decreases the cooldown on all your abilities by whatever. Like I feel like she needs that, and even then she's still like, eh.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like you should really explore that mage aspect, right?
Mhm.
Really take advantage of it. I like that she does do damage. I feel like she does maybe a little bit less than she should, just like a little bit. But what I want to see is maybe a change on the shift, as you said before, plenty of times, and I want to see an increase on the flamethrower range because that is awful.
Yeah, I agree.
It is trash.
Yeah. Well, it's like it kind of makes sense because it's a flamethrower, right? It's not like it's something that at least conceptually would have a lot of range, but it's like it's one of her better abilities. So like ideally, you don't have to get right up in the face of enemies to do it because again, she doesn't have any defensive abilities really. So it's like you're getting up in the face of enemies to use flamethrower, but then your escape is just ice wall, which, like I said, is not really a wall.
You're
right?
playing a mage in melee range.
Yeah, it's just not great. It doesn't like anytime I feel, anytime I play Artificer, I feel like I just want to play somebody else. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like I would enjoy myself, and I would do a lot better if I was playing Commando or Mercenary or Engineer or somebody, right? So I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, it's like you're in mercenary range, right? To get off all
To
your
do
stuff.
flamethrower, yeah.
And it's just like, but you don't have the iframes of mercenary, nor the base health regen of mercenary, nor the mobility of mercenary.
Yeah, I think they might need to tune up Mercenary as well, actually. I know you and I have been playing a lot lately, and I know just this past week I've been playing a lot of Mercenary because I kind of discovered him, right? I'd only really kind of restricted myself to Commando and Engineer primarily, and I was like, nah, I'll just give Mercenary a try. And Mercenary is a lot of fun, up to a point. Once you get a lot higher and like
Fire.
yeah, I was going to say the ancient Lemurians, which are like the giant lizard dudes, and the ones that spit fire and everything. They are by far and away the hardest enemies to fight as mercenary. Because like it was really funny. I made the mistake of using a lunar coin on one of those shrines that
puts all your items.
Yeah,
into
so
one
I was super fast. I think I had like 6 vials and then like 15 Paul's hoofs, right? So I was like super fast and like I had crazy health and like again I'd be getting all this health from these vials, but it's like I'd go to fight these giant Lemurians and they would just like spit fire at me and I couldn't do it.
And then you're still burning after, and you're just praying, that you don't just drop.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it was not great. He is a lot of fun, though, especially if you get the right items. Like, if you get a bunch of bandoliers, which, my first run with him, actually, I had a bunch of bandoliers. So, like, that was just fantastic, just, like, zipping around the map, like, not being able to get hit and again, abusing your iframes, essentially. But he might need a bit of a tune-up. I don't know. I guess I can't really think of any explicit ways to fix him up.
Hard.
But
how do you stop that issue with fire monsters that clearly just rip right through you?
Yeah, it's tough, like, you don't want to, like, make him too easy or make the enemies too hard. So I don't know. As far as everybody else, I mean, Commando's, again, pretty simple. Like, he's just your cut and dry, not difficult to play sort of character. He's not overtly reliant on items. I mean, it is great, like I said, once you get, like, the high attack speed and the high procs and everything, but you can function well enough without them. Engineer, I mean,
Engineer is fantastic.
At least right now is a staple, right? I think they did say in their dev thoughts too, which is like their kind of their things that they've been putting out on the Steam community page. I think they had mentioned that they're going to try and tweak the reliance for engineers to have fungus, right?
But it's just so good though.
That's what I mean. They're gonna see if they can play around with, like, maybe not having them be reliant on it. Like, obviously, if you get the item, it's really good, but, like, maybe so that engineers can be like can be extremely useful without them.
I think they are already extremely useful. Like, I don't think that. Okay, personally, I guess I'm not the dev. I don't see the data, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I just see the engineer. I've played it myself too.
No, engineer is really good.
Like, I just like how they are able to just interact with any item, any at all.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. Like, it's like we said at the start. They're in early access, and even so, the game is really, really, really well put out already. Like, they're basically just going to add more and more to it. More items, I think. Certainly more characters. I know people online have been saying Sniper's coming. Bandit, I believe.
Yeah, there's 4 more characters on the way.
Yeah, at least 4. Now. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'd still not gone through pre-sequel when you and our other friends and everybody kind of started really getting into it. So I said, I'll finish pre-sequel and then get Risk of Rain. Yeah, Borderlands pre-sequel. Which I did very promptly because that is a pretty short game, all in all, honestly.
How long?
I think it was like. I did like as many side quests as possible.
Okay.
I think it was like 5 hours, 5 or 6, something like that.
Okay.
It was pretty quick. I imagine if you only did the main story quest, it'd be even shorter, obviously. I didn't end up getting into any of the DLC just because I didn't hear great things about it, especially the Hollow Dome, which has Gage and Axton, who are characters I really like from Borderlands 2, but yeah, apparently it was not great DLC. So I might play around with pre-sequel a bit more. I did start an Athena character because she's probably the most prominent character in the following game. So, like, she's in the Telltale game, Tales from the Borderlands. She's in that, and I think she's in Borderlands 3. I'm not sure though. I couldn't tell you.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
On our nice Epic Game Store. See you there soon.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell plus 6 months. Assuming I don't get it on the Epic Game Store or on console. I might get it for console. Who knows? We shall see. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Risk of Rain because it's a pretty beloved series, I would say, as far as I'm aware. From what I've been seeing.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, exactly.
The first game, super well received.
Yeah, I've not really seen any like really bad opinions or thoughts on Risk of Rain 2. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen people who have said like, oh, it's like generic or anything like that. But I mean. It's just a pretty simple game, right? Like, it doesn't need like super crazy enemy designs or anything like that. Like, you're playing it because it's a fun game.
Yeah, but
right?
What I would say is that how many roguelikes are you able to play with your friends, right?
Yeah, that's a really a big bonus too. Like, playing solo is okay, but it's like
playing solo is great, right? But
just so much better with friends. It's almost like reminds me of that classic League feel. Where it's playing League on your own is whatever, but like you get a nice group of 4 or 5 people and it's League, it's way better. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I have to, at least my main not concern, but a question, if you will, is just like how long will it be on early access, right?
That's
Like,
the age-old question.
yeah,
That's the age-old question.
how long will it be until they decide to actually like release it? So I guess we'll see, you know.
But you know what? I think they are steadily releasing content at a good pace, right? There was already a balance patch, like even just like a week after, like
Yeah.
or a couple of days after the game officially came out, and it was crazy fast. Like they recognized what was strong, what was not, right? Multi was multiing, destroying everything,
Yeah.
and multiplying all the items off
Yeah.
and stuff. I don't know. But they decided to take that within their own hands. So I like how fast they're acting. And if we're already hearing news of Sniper, then
Yeah, I
good
don't
things
know.
to
I don't
come.
know if that's like a sort of like
Rumors.
yeah, I was gonna say that's more like rumors and stuff, which I guess we'll see. I'm interested to see the new classes because I mean, Artificer is a cool concept, just needs a bit of tweaking, so maybe they can improve on that for the next new character they come out with. Who knows?
True.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. So I would definitely say check it out. It's like $25 on Steam.
A little bit pricey, but
yeah.
I think it's worth it overall.
I would say it's worth it, especially because, like we were saying, you know, they're going to be putting out content in a hopefully a pretty consistent manner. So I would say check it out for sure. You got a couple friends you want to play with too, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
I think we're done
great.
on that point.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Next, Mortal Kombat 11.
Mortal Kombat 11. Well, I was gonna say we're starting off with real positive stuff this week as opposed to
Oh
like
yeah,
last week.
yeah. We'll get to the negative stuff though.
Yeah, so MK11, I think you had mentioned there was a article
Right.
that
So
kind of piqued your interest.
there was a small article that piqued my interest, right? But I wonder why this one is an article and everything else that we have heard from Mortal Kombat has been on Combat Cast, and they show us everything, and we can visualize it.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing that I want to visualize is in the article. And
Not
I'm just
out
like,
yet.
what's that about?
Hopefully, maybe the next one they'll have it.
So there was an article released about Dvorah,
Dvorah,
actually.
yes.
And it was just explaining how she would play, right? How she'd be able to like throw down some bugs and like they would crawl towards your enemies and explode, or you could do like some overhead like spitting out bugs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you could have like this bug that actually would latch onto their enemy or buzz around them, right? And you could put multiple stacks on your enemy, and when you deemed fit, you could blow them up, which is just super cool. A whole bunch of variations that you can do.
Yeah. Shout out my girl.
Yeah. But one of them that was that caught my eye was the ability to, whenever she died, right? There would be like this baby insect,
It's like
right, that would
larva or
just
something,
come
yeah.
out of her, and it has its own custom move set, right?
Yeah.
Now this is obviously it takes up like 2 variation slots or whatever, like, but it's still like a whole powerful ability. I'm just dreaming of watching competitive MK, right, or maybe even myself playing it, and I see this little baby Dvorah
It's like
bug thing,
larva,
just
maggot, whatever it is.
come out. I don't know how it's gonna come out of her body, right? Is it gonna just burst out of her chest like alien style? That would be amazing.
That'd be hilarious.
But yeah, I just love how over the top that MK goes overall.
Yeah, no, I like Dvorah. When she was revealed back for MK10, I was pretty interested in her. I really like, again, like you said, how crazy they do stuff, right? So, I can't remember if we had spoken about it a few weeks back, but one of the new characters who his whole thing is based around time manipulation.
Oh, okay, yeah. A couple weeks back we spoke about him. What, Geras?
Yeah,
Geras.
Yeah, like how he can mess with the match timer, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
one
that's
of the core elements of the game.
Yeah, you know, and that's such a weird thing to think about in a fighting game, but like Mortal Kombat's rolling with it, right? And so now with this whole Dvorah thing, it's you have a second life essentially, right? I mean, it's probably not going to be that much. Like
it's probably not going to be the best.
You're playing a larva or a maggot or whatever, right? Like again, we haven't actually seen it, which would be really cool to actually see, but you know, it's basically like your last stand sort of thing, right? So I'm really excited to see all like the weird and wacky stuff they can do. They had announced a few weeks back, or perhaps last week, I can't remember the exact date, but Noob Saibot.
That's right.
Who was one of my, I think I had mentioned in a few weeks ago, one of my main guys. So Noob Saibot is probably who I'm going to be playing a lot.
They had a combat cast about him recently.
Yeah.
Really cool. All the things he can do. They even have like an old outfit that pays homage. Of course they do. To his old outfit, right?
Yeah, well, he's really great. Just because, you know, as a character, he's neat. I I mean, he's got the whole sort of connection with Sub-Zero and Lin Kuei and everything like that. So I'm excited. I'll probably play him a lot. If they do bring Smoke in, I'm definitely going to play Smoke because I loved playing Smoke back in Mortal Kombat 9. That was my main guy, right? So, I mean, I hope they can bring him in some fashion. I know they're doing a whole lot of stuff story-wise with like messing with timelines and stuff. So I would love.
It looks great.
Mm-hmm.
All the trailers I'm super excited for. Like, I keep on finding myself, am I gonna buy MK11? And then I just watch a trailer or something.
You see more and more.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it looks worth it. Well, it's funny when I think it was it the Game Awards or was it E3 when they did the trailer with that 21 Savage song?
I think it was
the Game Awards. Yeah, it was the Game Awards. Yeah. And it.
I was so off at first. I was just like, what is this? Why is it 21 Savage? And I started bopping my head a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Like, is that 21 Savage? And then, I mean, it is what it is. The trailer itself is neat. And I know there was a mashup that somebody did of the trailer with the original Mortal Kombat theme, which was, amazing, right? And then, yeah, I mean, every time they come out with, like, trailers and stuff for it, it just, again, it's like it's just more and more like hype to actually like for me to like want to get it because again they're doing all this crazy wacky stuff that's really interesting. So I mean like the story in Mortal Kombat is kind of whatever, at least for me. It's not as important obviously, but yeah, I just want to see where they go with it.
I mean, what kind of ties me to the story? I'm kind of like you. I'm not really a big fan of the Mortal Kombat story. It's not that it's bad or good or whatever. It's just not something that appeals to me.
It's just a bit secondary to like actually playing the game.
Yeah, but like what I feel is once I play a character and I get invested into them, then that's when I want to know what the hell is this person, what's going on, right? Like, I'm going to be honest. As I said before in the past, I had no idea that Noob Saibot and Sub-Zero were brothers, right?
Yeah.
Then now I want to go do my history.
Yeah.
Same thing with what's happening with Kotal Khan, right? Where was he all this time, right, as a Khan? And then after, turns out he was imprisoned.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I know they did like I don't remember who it was, but it was like this lore thing where it's like, everybody thought it was like a plot hole, but no, it actually can be explained. And this is where he was, like, and all this other stuff, which is, it's hey, filling plot holes is always very important, I'll say, so.
Plus, I want to know, like, what's up with Shao Kahn? Why does he look so beef? Why is he looking so good? I want to know how he plays.
What do you mean, why is he looking so good? Like,
I don't know. I just like the way Shao Kahn looks.
Man, he always looks like a freaking beefcake with not a silly mask, but, that's his look. He's this big, giant man with a big, giant hammer and his skull mask and everything, so.
Right. For instance, I had to know, another thing I had to know was why is Raiden's electricity red now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's because of who he killed, right? It was because of Ermac? Was it Ermac?
No, it was he's got a weird name. He's an Eternal. I cannot remember his name. He was the antagonist in Mortal Kombat 10. Let me look this up.
Bald guy.
He has like a Shinnok.
Shinnok.
That's
Shinnok,
who it is, yeah.
He killed Shinnok, right? And anyway,
yeah.
I'm just completely a noob to all of Mortal Kombat 11, so, and this lore.
Yeah. I mean, again, the lore isn't sort of as
prominent.
Yeah. I mean, if you're into it, you're into it. I'm sure most people play for the
gruesome gameplay.
The gameplay, yeah, exactly. So,
have you seen any cool like fatalities or anything?
Yeah. I mean, they've all been pretty solid. I think. There was the is his name the Collector? Or is it something?
Yes, the Collector.
The Collector, yeah. He had a pretty brutal fatality. I mean, obviously that's kind of the name of the game, but I was really into him because of just the way he played seemed so smooth because he has 4 arms, right?
Technically, he has 6, Corey.
Well, you know what I mean, right? Like he's got the 2 arms that are kind of put behind his head, and they kind of they're there until you actually use them, and it's like I don't know, I was just really impressed by how smooth it looked.
Yeah,
when he was using those arms
character
and stuff, you know what I mean? And yeah, he just I don't know, I don't know if I'm into him kind of as a as with his playstyle and everything, but I was just looking at it, I was like, that looks really really polished and everything. And yeah, I mean I'm interested to see sort of what they keep doing in terms of weird stuff and pushing the envelope, so to speak, which is Mortal Kombat's been pretty good at doing. if I'm going to compare them to other fighting games, I do find a lot, like in a Street Fighter, it's, they do have like new and interesting looking characters, but like in terms of how they play, it's always very sort of similar enough that it doesn't ever warrant like extreme interest on my part. So yeah, I mean,
So you're gonna be a noob Cybot main.
So right now it's looking like Noob Saibot, just because again I played him a lot in Mortal Kombat 9. His moveset is very similar to that game, which he has the sort of the black hole from underneath and like throwing at his shadows and stuff. If they put in smoke, it's going to be smoke. No question,
contest.
no contest, nothing. Probably pick up Reptile again. I did play. He was like my secondary guy after Smoke and Noob Saibot. So we'll see. I will probably try and learn Sub-Zero just for posterity's sake, because I've always liked him as a character, so like playing through in the future, I'll probably want to get decent at him. So we'll see. What about you? What are you thinking so far, at least?
I'm thinking before in a previous episode, I was thinking Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage, yeah.
Because I just love his fatality.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But I'm thinking Jax. I never liked Jax.
Yeah, you were telling me that Jax was.
I never liked Jackie Briggs, right? Like I still don't like Jackie.
Sorry, like
his daughter.
His daughter, yeah.
Right. I don't like Jackie, and I used to not like Jax, right? But I watched the trailer. I watched the combat cast on Jax, right? Jax was looking pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I just love how just the sound that it makes whenever he hits someone. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, he's just a big bruiser, right? That's just kind of his thing. I mean, everybody else has like these weird martial arts and stuff, and he just hits people.
He's the literal definition of "come get these hands."
Yeah, he just throws hands, right? Actually, one person I forgot to mention was Devora. I'll probably try and learn her. With all this weird, wacky stuff, I don't know if I'll be super great at her or not, but I've always liked Devora, so I'll give her a shot. And maybe Kotal Khan as well.
Kotal looks amazing, amazing.
Yeah, I do like his design and everything, so we'll see how that goes. Sorry, you said Jax?
So,
Anyone else,
Jax. Anybody else? As you saw, right, the Collector. I kind of want to try him too, but I know Jax is going to be simple enough for me. He seems like a 50-50 beast. But if I ever get good enough and I stick with the game, which I hope I do, I don't want to throw away my $90.
Yeah, seriously.
So I want to get good at this game, and I think I will. It's going to be Jax main, I think, for sure, and maybe a Collector on the side.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Again, I really do hope they can incorporate smoke in some way, but if they don't, it's all the same, right? And we'll see how they do for DLC characters and stuff too, because I know for Mortal Kombat 10 they had Tremor, who's also a character I've been really into.
Is Tremor new, or was he like there back in the day?
He's not explicitly new, but he's more he's not like a mainline character. You know what I mean? So his inclusion is not too crazy, but it's also like they could easily swap him out for somebody no problem. Like, for example, let's say in this game they were doing a DLC pack, they could put in Tremor probably without much disappointment. It might be a bit weird since he was in Mortal Kombat 10 DLC. They just as easily could put in Rain, who's the water ninja character. Any of the robots, so like Sector or Cyrax, or they could put in Smoke as in his robot form, because again, if they're messing around with like timeline stuff, right, they could put in different variations of characters, right? So it doesn't have to be Smoke for Mortal Kombat 9. It could be Robot Smoke.
Funny that you brought up the robot variation. Actually, one of the maps, right, for the Noob Saibot. Right?
Yeah.
So you remember when they revealed him with the trailer, you could actually see the robot version of Sector, Smoke, Sub-Zero. Like you can see him in the background, right? So I wonder, does that mean he's not playable? Is he playable still? Is it just a map?
Yeah, they could be. They're just his characters, right? Actually, one character I'd be interested in maybe seeing again is Cyborg Sub-Zero, who was in Mortal Kombat 9. He was pretty interesting to play as. Different enough from like Sector and Cyrax. I hated playing against Sector. Oh my god. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Sindel could be brought back. Again, there's all these characters that they can revisit if they'd like. It's just up to them whether or not they want to do new characters or old characters or new versions of old characters. That whole sort of consideration, if you will.
This is from fighting games, Corey. What's your opinion on zoners, right?
It's tough because
Do you think they're skillful? Do you think they're not?
I mean, you have to imagine that there's at least some kind of skill involved in the conceptualization and implementation of zoners. In practice, it's probably not as sort of explicit as the developers might think, but I don't know. I guess I can kind of go either way on them. Like, I mean, probably just depends on my mood.
Would you ever play a zoner like yourself? Like a character more specific at long range, right? Just trying to lame out your opponent?
I mean, I probably would. I mean, like, I know for Noob, a big part of his kit is throwing at his shadow, right? And so, like, you can zone pretty hard with your shadow and stuff, but then, like, that does lead up into opportunities to actually get up close and to do actual combat against them. So he has a little bit of both. So maybe I wouldn't play a full zoner, but I would definitely not shy away from somebody who's like, they can stand back and zone for a little while until they can lead into like a really nice combo.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I used to do with Reptile actually a lot in Mortal Kombat 9. Kind of barrage them with some more ranged abilities and slide in for a long, more drawn out combo in melee. So I don't know. I wouldn't resign myself to a zoner just straight. Why? What do you?
No,
How do you feel about them? Like,
I've never knew in fighting games what type of character that I like to play. Like I always found myself playing something very generic. I'm not playing like the Ryu of the game, right? Yeah. But like in BB Tag, I found myself playing Gordo, Carmine, right? I want a little bit of flavor to my team, but like they're not exactly like super special.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to DBFZ, right? I play like Gohan right now. I switched up my team. I used to play Vegeta. I used to play Trunks, right? And everything's very bland, but I want to spice it up a bit, right? And I realized that I like to swap hands with people up close. He says Gordo player, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
I just like smooth transitioning combos, right? And I've always detested zoners. Now, I'm not saying that it's not skillful. I mean, it doesn't seem that it's very skillful
like
because
I said,
they spam the same move.
Certainly, you would imagine it requires some level of skill, just maybe not as much as
it's just they just stand back there and they chip me. I'm salty, okay? I'm salty, especially in BB Tag.
I definitely don't. I don't think that seems like a reasonable opinion. I'm not gonna fight you on that, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how it works out in Mortal Kombat. I really would hate to see like characters being too, not overpowered, but like too sort of, I guess overpowered, like in terms of like one strategy to them. Like it's nice seeing players, or at least, it's nice giving players the ability to mix it up in terms of like what sort of variants you take and stuff like that. Like, we were talking about Devora and all her cool stuff, but it's like ideally that stuff is viable so that you can see it in game. If it's not, well then it's just there for no reason, right? That'd be unfortunate. So
well, it's there for slight entertainment.
Yeah, so I do hope they can put that stuff in and make it so there's not one like build that's just obviously way better.
That's
right?
The dream, but that kind of happened in Mortal Kombat 10, right?
Like one of the variants
are just way better than the other two. Like it's not to say that like the other one couldn't compete or anything, right? It's just that just pick this one. It's the best.
Well, that's what I mean. Like ideally they're all equal enough that it's like you wouldn't be penalized for not taking one of them. You know what I mean? So I guess we'll see. I'm sure they'll do their best. They're pretty solid with that sort of thing, I think. So hopefully it goes well. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Same.
It's coming quick, right? So it'll be nice to see. So we were gonna talk. Gotta go into the more negative stuff now, obviously.
This is what feeds my soul.
Yeah. Well, we had mentioned it briefly last week, right? So we'll give a little context here for the anti-BioWare weekend sauce cast, right? So well, not anti-BioWare, but it seems like we
want their heads on a pitchfork.
Well, it just seems like every other week there's something going on with Anthem, but then now this week, I believe it was just a few days ago, we have news that Dragon Age 4 has been canceled, right?
That's right.
Is that right? Yeah. So it was, again, Jason Schreier from Kotaku who puts out this article talking about how Dragon Age 4 has been canceled and kind of detailing the, again, tumultuous development that has been associated with that game. And so, last week we were talking about how, again, Schreier's article on the problems with Anthem, really revealing and being really telling about all these issues that are happening internally at BioWare, right? So not even at the level of EA of the kind of the suits at the top, but with the developers, right? Where it's like they're working way too long and way too hard and having to take mental health absences and things like that. Sort of disorganization amongst the teams, competition and really petty sort of disagreements and all these other things, right? Which basically ended up leading into Anthem's really poor and disappointing release. And the sort of question in that case was like, well, where does BioWare go from there? And now we have it with, again, like we had said here earlier at the start, Dragon Age 4 is now canceled. So what are you thinking about this? Does it make sense? Is it, again, I think you had mentioned this last week, like, do you pity the developers at this point, or is it more just like that's kind of what you get?
I mean, I'm not pitying them at this point, right? I'm not saying that that's kind of what they get. There's something that I want to talk about a little bit, actually, since you brought up the developers.
Yeah, go
ahead. This is not new to the gaming industry of kind of running your devs into the ground.
No, certainly not.
Let's look at, for instance, Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Yeah. Well, when it came to light how the devs are being treated, everybody kind of had their pitchforks, and then they picked up Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was just, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah, they promptly forgot about it, and that seems to be a pretty big, a consistent trend, right? Where it's like you'll have these bursts of outrage on Twitter and stuff, and then the game comes out and everybody stops caring.
But okay, here's the next thing: is it wrong to do that? Right? I think the main reason why the anger lasted so long on Anthem, right, is because we paid for an awful product, right? Not to mention we found out how the developing went, so that's why everybody's, upset. I say we. I did not.
Yeah,
not me.
The community.
I'm too smart for that.
Yeah.
But the community paid for Anthem, and it was not good, and it's still not good, and it doesn't look like it's going to be good anytime soon.
It's.
They have so many bugs to fix, and they have a whole roadmap. Anyway, let's get off Anthem. We're done with that.
Yeah.
Back to Dragon Age. I don't know how I feel about this situation. I mean, I guess I kind of feel a little bit happy, as weird as that is, because we're not going to get this god-awful game that was probably going to be bad because it was going to be games or a service or whatever that nonsense is. Ugh.
Yeah. It's weird, right? Last week I had mentioned a lot on how Dragon Age Inquisition was a really, really bad game, and again, kind of possibly one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. And to me, when you told me this, which is fairly recently, about the whole article here, like, for me, it's relief and pity at the same time. I'm relieved that they're not going to run the franchise into the ground, because, like you said, games as a service is already a very annoying concept. But to put it into an RPG, like, no, come on, man. Like, that's not why people play RPGs or anything like that, right? So, I'm relieved that the series can kind of die peacefully. I'll compare it to Mass Effect, where, Mass Effect and Dragon Age were kind of these two big hot ticket IPs that BioWare had, and Mass Effect ended very poorly with Mass Effect 3, and then they kind of just dug it out of the grave and shot it again with Mass Effect Andromeda, right?
Final shot to the head.
Yeah, pretty much, you know what I mean? Like, let's make sure it's dead, and for Dragon Age, Dragon Age 2 was already kind of a very polarizing product that came out with, you have a lot of people who thought it was the worst thing ever, and a lot of people who thought it was the best thing ever, and, not a whole lot of people in between who were like, it's okay, but it needs some work. And then Dragon Age Inquisition came out, and you have this big...
lukewarm.
Well, not even, right? Well, you have this big bombastic narrative that they're pushing where it's like, you're going to be saving Thados, which is actually cool trivia. Thados, which is the setting in Dragon Age, is an acronym. Is conceived as an acronym which stands for the Dragon Age setting, THEDAS. So, fun fact. Anyway, the whole thing was you're going to save the world, right? You know what I mean? You're gonna have to choose sides and do all this stuff, and it's like you're the leader of the Inquisition. So it's not just like, in Dragon Age Origins, you're one of the last remaining Grey Wardens. So it's like you have to convince people to like, you have to help out the people with their problems and to convince them to help you with the Darkspawn. In Dragon Age 2, you're basically just a guy with your family. It's a more personal story, and like you get kind of caught up in all these different things that happen in the city of Kirkwall. And in Dragon Age Inquisition, like I said, they're like, you're the leader this time. It's like you're the top dog, and you're going to be doing all this crazy political shit and like saving the world from itself and yada yada. And then you play it, and it's like, kind of like, yeah, we kind of did some stuff, but I mean, it is what it is. And then again, I think I mentioned it last week. Then they come out with their last DLC, and it's like, oh well, now some really bad shit's happening, right? Which was going to be the backdrop for Dragon Age 4, but then now it's canceled. So, I guess it is a bit disappointing to see that the narrative and the story won't really have like a cohesive end unless they do like novels or graphic novels or comics or something, or maybe they'll just do a different game instead of Dragon Age 4. But again, I'm relieved that they won't run it into the ground, but I do pity the devs and the fans who have to kind of exist with this fact. Right?
Before I continue on, I remember there was this, not just now, but I found this tweet when I was researching this, and I think it was from one of the devs, and it was on Games as a Service. It was the funniest thing ever. I could not take it seriously.
Okay.
Because what it initially said was, you guys, Games as a Service is great because we're able to bring more story to you forever, basically.
No.
Like continuously.
Yeah. No, it's
Don't you want more story, Corey?
Well, that's what I mean, right? It's like Games as a Service for RPGs doesn't really make sense because an RPG ideally should have a cohesive and finished story. Like you should be able to play an RPG and sort of have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whether or not that's reliant on a prequel or a sequel or anything like that, it should kind of stand on its own. One of my favorite RPGs of all time, or rather my favorite RPG series, is the Trails in the Sky series, right? And that's a whole, I think I might have mentioned, that's a whole basically like soap opera series where it's like,
those games are long.
They're long. They have, the characters are all like in every single game, right? Like I'm not even done the Trails in the Sky series, and then I have to move on to Trails of Cold Steel, which is a whole other thing. And I'm already skipping, there's a series in the middle that hasn't been translated and released in the West yet, at least as far as I'm aware, at least on PC. So then I'm skipping that, right? It's this whole thing. So like, for those games, like yes, you do need to know about the prequel and everything, but you can get by to a certain extent without playing the other stuff. But they do have a beginning, middle, and end, right? It's complete. There's no DLC or anything. It's just you play it and that's it. Let's say Dragon Age 4 did come out as a Games as a Service and everything, and it's like, it's difficult for me to imagine they put everything in the base game, right? Especially if this trend of like ending DLCs for BioWare keeps continuing, because Mass Effect 3's ending was obviously horrible and had a lot of issues, and then they came out with the Citadel DLC, which was like more of a more personable ending. It was really to satisfy the fans and the fandom and people in the community who really had kind of grown to love and cherish these characters, which I can definitely understand. And then we also had the extended cut DLC, right, which was, I believe, was free. So that's not really as big a deal. But it's like it's almost like going after the fact and then changing the ending to benefit the hopeful sequel, right? Because like I said, in Dragon Age Inquisition, it's the DLC that had all the really interesting stuff narratively and everything, and then that was the sequel bait for Dragon Age 4, which now, again, as we had mentioned, is canceled. So, let's say it didn't get canceled, they'd probably do like a mostly complete story and then just keep kind of drawing it out with DLC until they do their last DLC, which is sequel bait for the next game, right? Which just doesn't work for RPGs, even with... No, it just doesn't... It rubs me the wrong way, you know what I mean? So, again, I'm not going to say I'm glad that it's happened, but,
It just gets you thinking. So, people were saying, or I don't know, what BioWare was saying was that Andromeda was bad because of Anthem. Now, Anthem, did it just take one stone and just kill two birds? Is that what just happened right there?
Yeah. It's like, okay, let's assume we believe the claim that Anthem was where they were putting their time and money on, and that's why Andromeda failed. What's the reason for Dragon Age 4 failing before it even came out? Like, what's the reason behind that then? Is it because Anthem?
It's because EA is done with
You know what I mean? No,
one.
yeah, it's because I don't know. I'm not gonna say that I think BioWare is on their way out, but they're definitely not looking great right now, right? We'll have to talk about it if they do end up like closing within the next like year or so. That'd be really interesting to see. I don't know. It's a whole mess, man. You know, like I said at the start, we're almost like the anti-BioWare friggin' weekend sauce here.
I don't feel like the I mean, yes, we definitely do not talk positively of any of their products. But we do like EA's game, which is Apex Legends, right?
I'm just saying, you know, it's like, I swear every week there's something with BioWare, with Anthem or anything, right? So it's like, it's just like a train wreck. You can't look away. You have to talk about it.
Well, you're looking away, and all you hear is the goddamn train just exploding in the back.
That's what I mean. It's like you look away, and there's all this stuff going on. So it's like you have to watch. I don't know. It's just a nightmare. Real quick, we got some time left, so let's just move on to something a bit more positive because, well, I mean semi-positive. So I was really interested. They just had revealed earlier presumably the last Lord Pack for Total War Warhammer 2. So I'll explain the way it works here, right? So basically, every Lord Pack has 2 new legendary lords for two of the factions, as well as like more units and like new mechanics and stuff like that. As well as they always put out at the same time a free legendary lord for a faction, right? So for Total War Warhammer 2, the way it worked is we had a pack with a legendary lord for the High Elves and for the Dark Elves. Harganeth, the Dark Elves, and Alariel, the Ever Queen's faction for the High Elves. And then at the same time as that paid pack came out, we had a free legendary lord who was also on the High Elves, actually voiced by Zach from Zach and Cody. So Cole Sprouse. Cole Sprouse, I think, or Dylan, whichever one it is. But yeah, he voices Alethanar for the High Elves.
Which one? Wait, before you continue, Zach or Cody?
It's Zach.
No, but who do you like better?
Oh, who did I like better? Oh, Cody, easily.
Cody was definitely, easily. I liked Cody.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, and then after that, we had, there wasn't any more Lord packs after that. That was the first one where, again, we had 4, so we had 4 heroes on the High Elves and 3 on the Dark Elves, and then 2, or no, am I missing? Am I missing one right now? So basically, what ended up happening is that the Lizardmen faction ended up with no lords for like a very long time, right? Because we ended up with a whole new faction, the Vampire Coast, the Vampire Pirates, which are fantastic. I love them. And so we had a whole new faction, and then the free lord with that was Dark Elves. So the Dark Elves ended up having 4, and the High Elves had 4, and the Vampire Coast came out with 4. And yeah, like it was kind of like the Lizardmen were getting shafted. Oh yeah, we had the Rise of the Tomb Kings. That was a whole a faction as well, and that came out with a free lord as well for the Skaven. So now we have the last Lord pack, which rounds out the faction. So every faction will have 4 legendary lords. And so there's the Lizardmen and the Skaven for this one. So it's called the Warlock and the Prophet, right? So I'll start with the Skaven because they're a lot easier to talk about because I can actually pronounce the names of their characters. We have Ikit Claw. From Clan Skyer, who's like a mad scientist. Did you? I don't think you saw the trailer, eh?
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, it was basically like the start of it was like a shot-for-shot remake of a Predator, where they're like wandering through the jungles and then they have the minigun and they shoot down the trees and everything. It was really funny actually. So Clan Skyer is one of the great Skaven clans, and they're basically like the mad scientist engineers guys. I won't get too much into like the lore and backstory, but basically for this, we have, again, in the paid content, we have a whole new legendary lord with a new starting position, new mechanics, some new units as well. And yeah, I mean, highlights for his side is that one of the new units is called, I believe it's the Doom Hauler, which is like a mini Doom wheel. It's basically like this like circular bike thing that it's like a buzzsaw on wheels, and it just blows through infantry like nobody's business.
How do you... Sorry, in the middle of it.
No,
How
yeah,
do you play Total Warhammer 2? Do you play online?
You can.
Do you? No, I mean.
Oh, do
you
I personally? No, not often. No.
No, you're more of okay.
Not that often. I definitely prefer campaign. Just because. I mean, I like campaign stuff and battle stuff equally, but like I find, I just feel worse when I lose. Like when I lose to people online, it feels bad, but it's like I don't really lose that often against AI, so I feel a lot better about myself. I'd say I'm pretty average in terms of like battle capability.
And who is your go-to faction?
So for Total War Warhammer, it's interesting because we have the Mortal Empires mode, which is every faction from even the first game.
Okay.
Yeah, so like in the base game for Total War Warhammer 2, I usually play Vampire Coast, just because they were like basically made for me in my playstyle. And I play Count Noctilus because of his abilities and stuff. So basically, like the way that they play is they have a lot of monsters and a lot of artillery, and I love monsters and artillery, so it just works out for me. For Mortal Empires, I'll usually play Empire or Vampire Coast, or sometimes Norska, just because Norska is really monster oriented, and the Empire is very artillery oriented. Though they're all rounders, but like I play Balthazar Gelt, who's the mage hero,
okay.
and he has a lot of bonuses for like artillery and like guns and stuff. So I really like him. And like I said, Vampire Coast is very like they have both. So whomever. In the actual like base game for Total War Warhammer 2, I like playing every faction, except Lizardmen to a certain extent. I really like Lizardmen as a faction, just like conceptually and lore and everything, but like actually playing them doesn't really feel that fun. I don't know why. It's like maybe the DLC will change that, hopefully. So we'll have to see.
So have you picked up all the other DLC prior?
Yeah, I have every DLC.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Well, I really like Total War Warhammer. It's really a lot of fun. And it's been really good to kind of expand my knowledge and understanding about the Warhammer universe, which is it's really interesting. So, obviously Warhammer is a tabletop game. But the way it works now is you have Warhammer 40K, which is like Space Marines and everything, and then you have Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy stuff. Everything from Total War Warhammer doesn't exist anymore. They axed that whole series.
Okay, it's all gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. It was Warhammer Fantasy. It was just original Warhammer, and they did this big like reset of the whole setting and the narrative and everything. They
rotted everything.
Yeah, well, it was called the End Times. So like Vermintide.
Okay, yeah.
It's the full name of that game is Warhammer, the End Time, Vermintide, the End Times, or something like that.
Oh,
right.
Okay,
it's the end of the world, and so in Vermintide, you're part of a group of survivors like fighting Skaven, and so yeah, like they axed the whole series. They killed everybody off basically. Like only a handful of like the characters survived, and everybody else died, and the whole planet was destroyed, and then like everything, they totally redid everything basically, which some people were happy about, some people weren't happy about. I mean, it is what it is. That's a discussion far beyond the scope and time that we have left. But again, for Total War Warhammer, it's been great to learn some of the stuff that doesn't exist anymore. And yeah, I mean, for final stuff on the Skaven side, they have nukes now.
Oh.
Which is cool. Little mini nukes you can use during fights.
Hopefully they're more useful than StarCraft nukes.
Yeah, hopefully. It'll be interesting to see. So that's the Warlock side, the Skaven side. The other side is the Prophet, which is the Lizardman, and I apologize for my pronunciation, but his name's Ten Hahwain. Anyway, he's a red-crested skink, which is like a red-crested little lizard guy. And his whole thing is he's very into genocide, Skaven genocide. Yeah, his whole thing is he's a priest of one of the Lizardmen gods, Sotek, who's like this big serpent god. And so his whole thing is that he just likes capturing Skaven and sacrificing them. So
okay,
he comes with he's the paid legendary lord. He comes with some new mechanics and some new units as well. The red crested skinks that he leads, as well as some new like monsters and stuff. So he'll be pretty interesting to play. Also, the Freed Lord that comes out with this is also a Lizardman character whose name is Tic Tac Toe. I'm not even kidding. That's his name. He's really interesting actually. His whole playstyle is based on flying units, which there's never been like a legendary lord or like an army that's been like really focused on flying. Like you've always had flying as like an additional thing, but right now
it's never been the main thing.
Yeah, it's never been the main thing. So I'm like, some people are upset that like he was chosen over like other Lizardman characters to be the last lord, but I think it's a good pick because again it's gonna be new. Right, like the other options they could have picked would be like very standard, like it was basically just like, like really standard kind of like easy and very straightforward characters that wouldn't bring a whole lot to the table. I mean, they'd be cool and they'd be recognizable, but like, yeah, like flying as like a main thing for an army has never existed. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Like, it'll be neat, I think, and get to play a guy named Tic Tac Toe. So, yeah.
I mean, it's always nice whenever games switch it up, right? Whenever they bring something fresh, something new. I'm not I don't play Total War Warhammer 2, right?
Yeah.
I've not. But I was interested at one time. I was like, wow, I want to play the orcs. They look metal as hell.
Yeah, orcs are, again, they're very straightforward, but they're a lot of fun. I think Warhammer orcs are probably my favorite interpretation of orcs ever. Like World of Warcraft orcs are just like basically green-skinned aboriginals, which all the problems associated with that, again, beyond the scope of this podcast, but they're very straightforward. Tolkien orcs are good enough. They're the baseline, but again, for Warhammer orcs, they're just loud and rowdy, and they all have like
Wait, hold on. I have to go back to your point. How can orcs be the aboriginals when Taurens exist?
So Taurens have the more aboriginal aesthetic, but it's like the idea of the orcs in World of Warcraft and Warcraft series, like they're noble savages. So it's basically just like taking a lot of like, again, pseudo aboriginal cultural and aesthetic stuff and putting them in, and then again you have like the humans who are like, oh, the orcs are savages, like we should just kill them, we should just genocide them. And then you have
trolls are Jamaican. Oh my god,
and then you have
so true.
I mean they've been doing a lot better in terms of like stuff like that, but like you got to remember that orcs have shamans and they're very shamanistic and all this other stuff, and then we have all the humans who are like those unintelligent savages, we should kill them. And it's like, where have I heard this before? So
unlucky.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I think I've heard this kind of discourse before in the past, but I can't remember where. But yeah, again, in Warhammer, they're a lot more fun and less problematic because they're just like silly English lads who just like knocking heads and killing people. So it's a lot more straightforward.
Of course, yes.
But yeah, it'll be interesting because, again, it's the last Legendary Lord pack that's going to be coming out, so either they're going to be doing different stuff with the DLC going forward, or they'll just move into Total War Warhammer 3.
What would you like to see?
I would prefer the latter, unless they do really cool stuff with the DLC, because, again, Vampire Coast was basically totally new, right? Like, the Vampire Coast army had existed in the Warhammer tabletop game to a certain extent, but they really fleshed it out for the video game, and they even created a whole new character for it as a Legendary Lord, right? Like, the Vampire Coast faction has one character, one Legendary Lord that you can play that Creative Assembly made for that. They came up with it themselves. So, I mean, like, if they want to do stuff similar to that, where it's like they have this concept that's already existed, but they flesh it out, I say go for it if they can do it well. If not, just move on to Total War Warhammer 3. I think it'd be fine either way. Okay. That's all I really had to say on that, though. Again, I'm just really excited to see where they go with it, and it'll be fun. On that note, I think we can sign off, right? I mean,
yeah, I think that's
Risk of Rain's good. Mortal Kombat's great. BioWare.
Hopefully it's great. Are you gonna pre-order or no?
I'll have to do a bit more research.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give it a look. BioWare hopefully gets better, and hopefully
I want it to be good.
Mortal Kombat 11?
No, I know that's gonna be good. Like, I don't even have to want it. I know it's gonna be good. Like, just based off of my research.
Well, that's a good feeling then, because you never want to be like, especially with games nowadays, you always want to know.
No pre-order yet, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. On that note, we'll take off. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to listen. We got Twitter @WeekendSauce. Follow, talk to us. That'd be lovely.
Tell us what you want to see in the comments below if there's anybody there.
Yeah, YouTube. Like, subscribe, notifications, comments, all that great stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Take care.